The cowboy set the bone with gentle hands, after his mail-order bride arrived with a broken arm. Cade McAllister wiped the sweat from his brow as he leaned against the wooden railing of his small porch. The twin suns of the desert planet Sirocco, 7, were dipping toward the horizon, painting the sky in streaks of gold and lavender. He had been waiting a long time for this day. Ever since he had sent for his mail-order bride, Alara Voss, he had imagined how she might be. Bright, curious, and clever. Now the interstellar coach was due any minute, and Cade's boots tapped nervously against the wooden floor. His homestead was modest. A solar-powered windmill hummed quietly behind the cabin, keeping the water tanks full, and a small herd of holographic cattle grazed across the dusty plains. The land was rugged and beautiful, full of sandy dunes, scattered rocks, and patches of alien flora that shimmered faintly under the suns. Cade had spent years shaping this corner of Sirocco, 7 into a workable home. But today, he wasn't thinking about windmills or cattle. He was thinking about Alara. The coach's arrival was announced by a soft hum that grew louder as it descended from the sky. Cade squinted and saw a sleek silver vehicle, its hover engines glinting in the sunlight, coming to a slow stop in front of his porch. A small ramp extended from the coach, and Cade's heart raced. He straightened his worn hat and took a deep breath. The door opened, and out stepped Alara. Cade had imagined her standing tall and confident, but what he saw made him pause. She was young, with a lively sparkle in her eyes, but her left arm was in a delicate sling bent slightly at the elbow. A soft, gauze-like bandage peeked from beneath her jacket. Despite her injury, she moved with grace, careful yet determined, as she made her way down the ramp. Cade rushed down the steps, trying to hide his surprise. "Alara?" he called. His voice came out a little rougher than he wanted, but she smiled warmly at him. "Yes, Cade," she replied, her voice clear and bright. "It's so nice to finally meet you." Cade offered his hand, but she lightly tapped it with her uninjured hand, chuckling softly. "I think I need both hands to keep from falling over," she said, glancing at her sling. Cade felt a blush rise to his cheeks, though the desert heat didn't help. "Let me help you with that," he said, gently guiding her up the last few steps to the porch. She leaned slightly on him for support, and Cade noticed how small her presence seemed against the vast horizon. Somehow she looked perfectly at home, yet completely out of place all at once. Once they were both seated on the porch bench, Cade studied her arm. "What happened?" he asked. Alara shrugged. "A minor accident back at the orbital city. Nothing too dramatic. They wrapped it up and told me to rest. I figured I'd manage the journey, but it seems I underestimated the bumps in the desert roads." She smiled faintly, but Cade could tell she was frustrated that her first impression involved an injury. "Well, you're here now," he said, trying to lighten the mood, "and I promise nothing's going to hurt you out here. Except maybe a little sunburn if you forget the hat." Alara laughed, and the sound felt like a small bell in the quiet evening. Cade noticed how easy it was to talk to her, how her curiosity sparkled even in her discomfort. Over the next hour, Cade showed Alara around the homestead. He demonstrated the solar windmill and how it powered their water system. He showed her the holographic cattle, which flickered and shimmered as they grazed. Alara's eyes widened with wonder as she reached out to touch one of the animals, her fingers passing through its holographic form. "This is incredible," she said softly. "I've never seen anything like this. It's alive in a way, but not alive." Cade grinned. "Yeah, it takes a little getting used to. Most folks from the orbit cities think it's strange, but it's practical. No feeding, no real mess. Just the work we need to do ourselves." Alara nodded, then paused. Do you miss Earth?" she asked suddenly. Cade looked out across the dunes. "Sometimes. But out here, there's space to think, to work, and to live without distractions. I like it. Makes life simpler." "Honest." Alara smiled and glanced at her arm again. Cade noticed a small frown crossing her face, and he realized she must be uncomfortable. He fetched a small, soft chair and gestured for her to sit while he adjusted her sling gently. Using a combination of old-fashioned care and a small futuristic device he kept in his cabin, a mini-gravity stabilizer for broken limbs, he supported her arm. "There," he said. "That should make it a little easier." Alara flexed her fingers cautiously and nodded. "Much better." "You have gentle hands for a cowboy," she said. Cade laughed. "Gentle enough to handle holographic cattle?" he said, trying to match her humor. As the suns dipped lower, Cade prepared a small meal. It was simple fare: roasted root vegetables from the hydroponic garden and a small portion of synthesized protein meat. Elara watched him work, fascinated by the contrast between her tech-heavy home city and this dusty frontier. "You know," she said, "I thought I would have trouble adjusting, but this feels real, honest, and kind of magical." Cade felt a warmth in his chest. "That's what I hoped you'd feel. It's not easy, but it's home. And now it's your home, too, if you want it." Elara nodded, her smile softening into something thoughtful. "I think I'd like that. There's a lot to learn, but I want to try." By the time night fell, the twin moons had risen, casting a silvery glow across the desert. Cade and Elara sat quietly on the porch, sipping warm tea from metal cups. The wind was calm, and the only sounds were the distant hum of the windmill and the occasional flicker of the holographic herd. Cade realized how much he had imagined this moment, how much he had worried about meeting Elara. And yet, here she was, not perfect, but real, not entirely comfortable, but willing. And that willingness was enough. Elara looked up at the moons. "It's so quiet here," she said. "In the city, there's always noise, machines, lights, people. Here, it feels like the world is breathing." "It is," Cade said softly. "And now you're part of it." Elara smiled, leaning back in her chair. Cade watched her for a moment, noticing the way her eyes reflected the moonlight. Something unspoken passed between them. A connection, a recognition of shared curiosity, and perhaps the beginning of trust. As the night deepened, Cade finally stood. "Get some rest. Tomorrow I'll show you the rest of the land, and maybe we'll start on getting your arm fully healed." Elara nodded, still smiling. "I think I'd like that." Cade tipped his hat and watched her go inside the cabin. He felt a quiet satisfaction. The journey ahead might be long, full of learning and adaptation, but this was the start of something promising. Something gentle, patient, and alive with possibility. Out on the porch, Cade looked once more at the desert horizon, the twin moons reflecting off the distant dunes. He breathed in the cool night air, feeling a strange mix of relief and excitement. The first step had been taken, and the adventure, one not of danger, but of care, discovery, and companionship, had begun. And for the first time in a long while, Cade McAllister felt that the dusty plains of Sirocco 7 were not just a home, but a place where hearts could heal and lives could begin again. The morning sun rose slowly over Sirocco, 7 spilling soft amber light across the dusty plains. Cade McAllister was already up, moving quietly around the cabin. He didn't want to disturb Elara, who had stayed up late the night before, marveling at the twin moons and the quiet beauty of the desert. The smell of hot tea and toasted root vegetables filled the air as he prepared breakfast for her. Elara stretched as she stepped outside the cabin, her injured arm carefully supported by the sling Cade had made the previous night. "Good morning," she said, her voice still soft with sleep. "I didn't think I'd wake up this early on a desert planet." Cade grinned. "The desert wakes early. You'll learn to enjoy it. Sun rises, work begins. Simple as that." She smiled, careful with her movements. Simple, but not easy. "My arm still feels stiff." Cade motioned for her to sit at the small table on the porch. He pulled out a tiny box of tools he had kept in a drawer, a mix of old cowboy remedies and a few futuristic devices he had collected from travelers passing through Sirocco. 7. "We'll start slow," he said. "First, a little warm compress. It'll help loosen your muscles." Elara watched as he carefully activated a small heating pad that floated slightly above her arm thanks to anti-gravity supports. "You really do have gentle hands," she said with a small laugh. "Not what I expected from a cowboy." "Well, you never know," Cade replied. "We've got to take care of what matters out here, and you matter." The warm pad pulsed softly against her arm. Cade guided her fingers to flex gently, showing her how to move without causing pain. Elara followed, careful but curious. Each small motion brought a little more freedom and a little more confidence. "Feels better," she said after a while, smiling faintly. "I can move it a little more now." "Good," Cade said. Tomorrow we'll try a bit more, but slow and steady. Out here, patience is important." After breakfast, Cade decided it was time for Elara to see the land around the ranch. The dust was soft under their boots, and the warm air carried the smell of alien flowers mixed with the faint metallic tang of the windmill. Cade pointed to the holographic cattle grazing nearby. "These are the herd," he said. "They're not real in the sense of flesh and blood, but they behave like real animals. You've got to treat them with respect. Watch their patterns. They'll respond to you if you're patient." Alara knelt down and reached a hand toward one of the flickering animals. She laughed softly as her fingers passed through it. "It's strange, but fascinating. It feels alive, like it's listening to me." "You'll get the hang of it," Cade said, "just like everything else here." They spent the morning working together, Alara learning how to manage the holographic herd while Cade explained the rhythms of the desert. They repaired a small solar panel that had partially detached during last week's windstorm. Alara's knowledge of Orbit City technology proved useful, and Cade was impressed by how quickly she adapted. "You're a natural," he said as she carefully adjusted a floating connector. Alara blushed faintly. "I've never done this kind of work before, but I like figuring things out." "Good," Cade said. "That's exactly what life out here needs. Thinking, patience, and trying things for yourself." By midday, the sun was high and warm. Cade suggested they rest in the cabin. He prepared another small device, this one designed to gently massage her arm and encourage blood flow. Alara relaxed as the soft vibrations eased her stiffness. "I can't believe how much you care about this," she said quietly. "Back in the city, people barely notice if someone is uncomfortable. Here, you're paying attention to every little thing." Cade shrugged, a little embarrassed. "I don't know. I guess it's just how I am. Out here, you take care of what matters, because nothing else will take care of it for you." Alara smiled, her eyes reflecting a mix of admiration and gratitude. "I think I could get used to this," she said. The afternoon was spent exploring a small canyon near the homestead. Cade held Alara's hand as she navigated rocky terrain, careful not to strain her arm. The canyon walls shimmered faintly in the sunlight, revealing patterns in the stone that looked almost like distant constellations. "Look at that," Alara whispered. "It's like the stars fell down into the canyon." "Nature has its way of showing beauty," Cade said softly. "You just have to notice it." They reached a small pool of water at the canyon's base. The surface was perfectly still, reflecting the sky and the twin suns. Cade knelt to check his equipment, and Alara sat beside him, dipping her fingers into the water. "This is peaceful," she said. "I never imagined a place like this." Cade smiled. "That's the beauty of the frontier. It doesn't shout, it just exists. And if you're quiet enough, you notice everything." On their way back, Cade noticed Alara struggling slightly with a steep incline. He quickly took her sling, adjusting it to give her more support, and offered his arm. "Here, lean on me. Don't worry about keeping perfect balance. That comes later." Alara's hand brushed his as she accepted his support. "Thanks," she said softly. "I didn't realize how much a little help can make a difference." "That's the thing about living out here," Cade said. "We help each other. That's how it works." Back at the homestead, Cade prepared a simple evening meal. Alara watched him work with fascination, noticing the rhythm of his movements, the care he took in each task. When the meal was ready, they ate quietly, the conversation flowing in easy, natural ways. "I never thought I'd like frontier life," Alara admitted, "but it feels honest, simple. And I like learning from you," Cade chuckled softly. "Learning from me, huh? That's good. You'll need it out here." After dinner, Cade suggested they spend some time on her arm exercises again. Using the small devices he had brought from the cabin, he guided her through gentle stretches and movements. Alara followed, slowly but steadily improving. "You're getting better every day," Cade said encouragingly. "Soon you'll be able to use it almost normally."
Alara looked at him, a spark of determination in her eyes.
"I want to get there. I want to be able to help you with the ranch, not just watch." Cade felt a warm pride. That's exactly the spirit that makes life here work. As night fell, the desert grew quiet. The holographic herd shimmered under the twin moons, and the windmill hummed softly. Cade and Alara sat on the porch, sipping warm tea, watching the sky. "You've shown me so much already," Alara said, her voice thoughtful. "And I can see there's still a lot more to learn." Cade smiled, tipping his hat back. "I'm glad, too. You've already brought something new to this place. Your curiosity, your mind, it's refreshing." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, listening to the desert night. Cade felt a deep satisfaction, seeing Alara slowly adapting to frontier life, her arm healing, her confidence growing. He realized that this was only the beginning, not just of her healing, but of the bond forming between them. Tomorrow, Cade said finally. "We'll start some more hands-on work with the holographic herd. And maybe I'll show you how to ride the desert skiff. You ready?" Elara laughed softly. "I think I'm ready. I want to keep learning, Cade, with you." Cade watched the twin moons reflect in her eyes, and for the first time he felt that the future on Sirocco 7 was not just about survival. It was about discovery, partnership, and quiet joy. The desert night wrapped around them like a soft blanket, full of promise, and Cade knew that together they could face the challenges of this new frontier with patience, care, and gentle hands. The next morning, the desert sky of Sirocco 7 was unusually bright, almost blinding under the twin suns. Cade McAllister was already out checking the windmill and the solar panels. The night had been unusually warm, and the air smelled faintly of ozone, a sign Cade recognized from his years on the planet. A small meteor storm was approaching. "Elara," he called, turning toward the cabin, "we might have a little challenge today." "You'll want to stay close." Elara emerged, her arm still carefully bandaged but moving more freely than the day before. "A challenge? What kind?" she asked, curiosity brightening her features. Cade pointed toward the distant horizon. Tiny glimmers, like sparks of light, flickered against the sky. "Meteor storm. Mostly small debris, but it can shake the ground and spook the herd. We'll need to make sure everything's secure." Elara's eyes widened with excitement. "A meteor storm? I've never seen one up close. What do we do?" Cade smiled, appreciating her fearless curiosity. "First, we make sure the herd is calm. Then we secure the equipment. You'll help me with both. Nothing too scary, I promise." Together, they walked toward the holographic cattle. Normally, the herd moved slowly, grazing under Cade's watchful eye, but as the first small sparks fell from the sky, the holographic animals flickered nervously. Cade knelt and activated a soft, calming pulse from his wrist device, which sent a gentle energy wave to the holograms, stabilizing their projections. "Like this," he said to Elara, demonstrating the pulse. "Try it yourself. Just a gentle touch. Don't rush it." Elara concentrated, her uninjured hand hovering above the floating control pad. A soft hum filled the air, and slowly the flickering herd steadied, their glowing forms solidifying. Cade watched with pride. "Not bad," he said. "You've got a natural touch for this." They spent the next hour moving the herd closer to the center of the homestead, where the terrain was more even and safe. Cade showed Elara how to use small hover drones to guide the animals gently. Her arm, though still healing, adapted well to the light controls, and she guided the drones with precision. "This is amazing," she said, laughing as one drone nudged a holographic calf in the right direction. "It feels like a dance," Cade chuckled. "Exactly! You've got rhythm!" "That helps more than you know." Once the herd was stable, Cade turned his attention to the homestead's equipment. The small solar panels, water tanks, and windmill needed protection from debris. Cade handed Elara a set of lightweight magnetic straps and small protective shields. Together they secured each device, attaching shields to panels and reinforcing the windmill's base. "Your turn to test the shields," Cade said, pointing to the last panel. Elara adjusted a shield with care. "Done," she said. A small shimmer ran across the panel and the protective barrier held firm. Cade clapped softly. "Perfect. See? Teamwork." As they finished, a faint tremor shook the ground. Small meteors were falling nearby, their glowing trails illuminating the desert like sparks from a campfire. Cade and Elara stayed calm, knowing the homestead and herd were safe. The tremors were strong enough to rattle the holographic projections, causing a few of the animals to flicker and shift. "Let's stabilize them again," Cade said. He activated his wrist device, sending the calming pulse across the herd. Elara mirrored the motion, sending her own pulse. The hologram steadied immediately, and the two of them exchanged a smile, satisfaction lighting their faces. After a few minutes, the storm seemed to intensify slightly. A gust of wind kicked up, swirling dust and small debris across the plains. Cade grabbed a small portable shield and held it in front of Elara, guiding her toward the cabin. "Stay close," he said. "We'll be safer inside." Inside the cabin, they watched the storm together. Tiny sparks fell around the homestead, but nothing struck them. Cade pointed out the faint streaks of light outside the window. "See that? Those are the larger fragments. They're rare, but they make the storm spectacular." Elara pressed her hand against the glass, mesmerized. "It's beautiful and a little scary, but I like it." Cade nodded. "That's the frontier. Beautiful, unpredictable, and full of surprises. You never get bored." After a moment, Cade pulled out a small instrument he had been tinkering with, a device designed to measure atmospheric changes during the meteor storm. Alara watched closely as he adjusted the controls. "Want to help?" Cade asked. "Of course," she said eagerly. Carefully, she followed his instructions, attaching small sensors around the cabin's perimeter. "I feel like a frontier scientist," she said, smiling. "You are," Cade said with a grin, "and not a bad one at that." They worked together, checking the sensors and noting the readings. The cabin hummed with small lights as the devices recorded data. Cade and Alara talked quietly, sharing stories about their lives, the cities she had left behind, the adventures he had lived on Sirocco, 7, and the hopes they had for the future. By mid-afternoon, the storm had passed, leaving the desert bathed in a soft golden glow. The holographic herd grazed calmly once more, flickering gently as the last effects of the storm passed. Cade and Alara stepped outside to survey the land. "Everything's intact," Cade said, smiling. "The herd is fine, the equipment is fine, and you did a great job helping." Alara looked around, a sense of pride filling her chest. "It's amazing how much can happen in just a few hours," she said. "And I feel like I learned so much today." Cade nodded. "You did. You learned to adapt, to think fast, and to trust yourself. That's the frontier, Alara. You do a little, you learn a lot." As they walked toward the homestead, Cade noticed a small patch of desert flowers, flattened by the gusts. He knelt and carefully lifted a few petals with his fingers. "Even the smallest things get affected," he said. "But they bounce back." Alara knelt beside him. "Just like us," she said softly, smiling. Cade nodded, realizing she meant both physically and emotionally. That evening, they prepared a simple meal together, using the solar-powered stove. They shared stories and laughter, recounting the day's events. Cade showed her how to roast vegetables evenly, while Alara demonstrated a clever way to use leftover energy from the windmill to heat the water faster. "You're really good at this," Cade said, impressed. "You too," Alara replied. "I never imagined frontier life could be so cooperative. Fun, even." After dinner, Cade suggested a small activity to celebrate their teamwork. He brought out a floating globe of the solar system, a small device he had used for navigation and study. "Let's map out our future," he said. "Places we'll explore, things we'll build together." Alara laughed, placing tiny markers on the holographic planets. "I like this idea," she said. "It's like a plan, but also an adventure." They spent the next hour exploring possibilities, imagining expansions to the homestead, improvements to the technology, and even small journeys across Sirocco. 7. Each idea sparked another, and the cabin echoed with their laughter and excitement. Finally, as the twin moons rose in the night sky, Cade and Alara sat quietly on the porch once more. The desert was calm, the storm now only a memory, and the holographic herd shimmered peacefully under the moons. "You know," Alara said softly, "I never thought a day like today could be so full of learning and fun and hope." Cade smiled. "That's the frontier. Every day is a chance to learn something new, to grow, and to share it with someone else." Alara looked at him, her eyes reflecting the twin moons. "I think I've found more than just adventure here," she said. "I found someone to learn with." Cade's chest warmed at her words. "And I found someone who makes the desert feel alive." As the night wrapped around them, the desert's silence felt comforting, full of possibilities. Cade knew the storm had tested them gently, but it had also shown them how much they could accomplish together. They had faced the unexpected, adapted, and thrived, all without fear, all with care and teamwork. And in that quiet, glowing desert, Cade and Alara realized that together they could weather any storm, even the small, sparkling meteor storms of Sirocco. 7. The morning sun rose slowly over Sirocco. 7. Casting a gentle golden glow across the desert plains. Cade McAllister was already outside, tending to the holographic cattle and checking the small windmill. The air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of alien flowers and sun-baked earth. Today was different. Today, Alara's arm would be fully healed. Cade felt a mix of anticipation and quiet excitement. Alara stepped outside the cabin, her sling gone. Her arm, once weak and stiff, moved freely now, glowing softly with the traces of Cade's careful treatment. She flexed her fingers, feeling the strength returning. "It feels perfect," she said, her voice full of awe. "I can move it completely." Cade smiled warmly, proud and relieved. "Told you patience and gentle hands. Works every time." She laughed softly, spinning her arm in a wide circle. I didn't think I'd ever feel normal again. You're more than normal, Cade said. You're ready for anything out here. They walked together toward the holographic herd, which shimmered in the morning light. Today, Alara felt confident enough to help guide the animals without assistance. Cade handed her the small drone controls, and she moved through the herd with ease, gently nudging the holographic calves and adjusting their projections as needed. You've come a long way, Cade said, watching her work. I think the herd trusts you now, Alara grinned. It feels amazing. I never thought I'd enjoy this so much. It's peaceful. That's the frontier. Hard at times, but rewarding. And you're learning fast. After tending the herd, Cade led Alara to the cabin, where he had prepared a simple breakfast of roasted root vegetables and warm tea. They ate together on the porch, enjoying the soft morning breeze. You know, Alara said thoughtfully, I've learned more about life in the past few days than I ever did in the city. The pace, the attention to small details, even just noticing the wind or the dust or the herd, it's fulfilling. Cade nodded. That's why I stayed here. Out here you learn to notice what matters. You take care of it, and it takes care of you in return. After breakfast, Cade suggested a small project. Now that your arm's healed, I thought we could start on a little improvement for the ranch. He led her to a partially broken water pump. It's not hard, but it could use your tech skills. I think together we can make it better than before.
Alara's eyes lit up.
Let's do it. For the next few hours, they worked side by side. Cade showed her the mechanical parts, the gears, and the small hydraulic systems, while Alara applied her city knowledge, introducing a few clever tweaks. Together they created a water pump that was faster, more energy efficient, and easy to maintain. There, Cade said finally, wiping his hands on a cloth. That should last a long time. Alara stepped back, examining their work. We did that together. I think I'm really starting to feel at home here. Cade smiled. You are at home, and you're making it better too. As the day continued, Cade suggested a gentle ride across the dunes. He had a small desert skiff, a hovering vehicle designed to glide smoothly over sand. Alara's eyes widened with excitement. Can I really drive it? She asked, her grin wide. Of course, Cade replied. I'll guide you, but you'll be in control. They mounted the skiff, Cade showing her the controls and how to adjust the hover height. With her arm fully healed, Alara handled the skiff with ease. They glided over the dunes, the wind in their hair and the twin suns warming their backs. The desert stretched endlessly before them, golden and vast, a reminder of the freedom and adventure of frontier life. This is incredible, Alara said, laughing as the skiff dipped and rose over a sand ridge. Cade grinned. Told you the frontier had its rewards. You've got the hang of it fast. They rode together until the suns began to dip, painting the sky with shades of pink and orange. When they returned to the homestead, the desert seemed even more beautiful than before, bathed in evening light. That night they sat on the porch with warm tea, the holographic herd grazing peacefully nearby. Cade looked at Alara, noticing how comfortable she had become, how confident she was in her new home. You've changed a lot in just a few days, Cade said softly. Alara smiled. And I feel like I've found a place where I belong, where I can contribute and learn and just be myself. Cade's chest warmed. That's exactly why I wanted you here. Not just for me, but for you too. This place, it's better with you in it. Alara reached out and gently touched his arm. I think I'm glad I came, not just for the frontier, but for you. Cade's eyes softened. And I'm glad you stayed. They watched the twin moons rise over the desert, reflecting off the holographic cattle and the soft dunes. The air was calm, the homestead safe, and the desert quiet. For the first time, Cade felt completely at peace, knowing that he and Alara were ready to face whatever came next, together. Over the next few days, their life settled into a rhythm. They worked on the homestead, explored the desert, and experimented with new ways to blend technology and frontier living. Cade taught Alara the subtle skills of reading the dunes, predicting weather patterns, and understanding the holographic herd. Alara introduced small innovations, like energy-efficient storage systems and simple protective shields for equipment. Together, they created a homestead that was not only functional but also full of warmth, laughter, and discovery. Each day brought small challenges, but they approached them with patience, cooperation, and gentle hands. One evening, after a long day of work, Cade and Alara stood on the highest dune near their cabin. The desert stretched endlessly, golden in the light of the setting suns, and the twin moons reflected softly on the distant sands. "I think we've built something special here," Cade said quietly.
Alara nodded.
"We have, and I feel like this is only the beginning. There's so much more we can do, together." Cade took her hand in his, feeling the warmth and strength of her healed arm. "Together," he said, "we can handle anything the frontier throws at us." Alara squeezed his hand, smiling. "And enjoy every moment of it." As the moons rose higher, they watched the holographic herd shimmer under the soft light. The windmill hummed gently, the solar panels glinted in the moonlight, and the desert stretched endlessly, full of promise and possibility. For Cade and Alara, life on Sirocco. 7 was more than survival. It was learning, sharing, and growing together. Each day brought a new adventure, a new lesson, and a new opportunity to care for each other and their home. Finally, they returned to the cabin, hand in hand, the warmth of the desert night surrounding them. Inside, the small home glowed with soft light, a symbol of their partnership and the life they had built together. Alara looked around, feeling a deep sense of peace. "I think this is where I belong," she said softly. Cade smiled, tipping his hat back. "And I'm glad you're here, more than you know." As they settled down for the night, the desert outside was calm, full of quiet energy, and alive with possibilities. The frontier had tested them gently, taught them patience, and shown them the rewards of cooperation and care. Cade and Alara drifted off to sleep, side by side, hearts light, hands gentle, and ready for whatever new adventures awaited on Sirocco. 7. In the morning, they would rise again to greet the twin suns, the holographic herd, and the endless possibilities of the desert. But for now, they rested, content in the harmony they had created. 2 hearts, 2 hands, and a world waiting to be explored together. And so, the cowboy who set the bone with gentle hands and the bride who arrived with curiosity and courage began a new life, full of laughter, learning, and quiet love in the glowing dust of Sirocco. 7.